Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today for a new video. I'm going to be sharing a project with you that I made with Simon Says Stamp's brand new Holiday Sparkle release, which is available now over at simonsaysstamp.com. And I wanted to create a project with some watercoloring as the general technique. But I know sometimes watercoloring can be a bit intimidating, so I thought I would approach it from a very simple perspective. And we're going to make a very easy watercolored card that looks absolutely beautiful, and it's something that you could even reproduce and make multiples of because it doesn't take a lot of time to do. The main piece that we're going to be using today to help aid us in our watercoloring technique is an embossing folder. I'm using this brand new Winter Berries embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp. It's super elegant. I love the simple berry branches here. We're going to stick our watercolor paper into our embossing folder and run this through your machine with whatever sandwich your machine requires for an embossing folder. Once you've embossed this beautiful design into your paper, we're going to start watercoloring. You need basically 3 colors of watercolors. I'm using brown, green, and red. Now I did bring in a little bit of blue for a wash in the background, but that's not necessary. You don't have to do that. I'm going to trace all of these lines on this Winter Berry embossing folder. So I'm coloring all of the stems in green and brown, and I'm coloring all of the berries in red. Super simple. You're just tracing over these areas, and I'm not focusing on staying inside the lines. Actually, the sheer fact of allowing the color to go outside the lines is what makes this background look so cool. Now, if you did want to do a wash of color in the background like I'm doing right now, you'll mix a bit of red and also blue together to create a dusty purple. And I did allow this blue to mix with some of the green, the brown, and even the red berries. That softens some of the edges and creates more of a messier look, which is what I was going for. I didn't want this to look perfect. So that's really encouraging if you're creating this and you've never watercolored before, or maybe watercoloring is a bit intimidating. You can not have to worry about any of the details, not trying to make this perfect. The messier, the better. I really like that loose look, and I think that really lends itself to this design of this embossing folder. So once I colored all of those stems and berries, and as you can see, I basically repeated the whole process across this whole piece. I then added a few splatters to help with that whimsical look. And for those splatters, I used both red and also some of the blue, and that creates a little bit of a nice purple tone. Once we let this dry, we're going to cut this down so it's slightly smaller than an A2 card. I'll use some foam tape to put on the backside of this piece, and then that'll pop up beautifully on top of some Nina Desert Storm cardstock. This Nina Desert Storm is really perfect for adding that soft, warm color tone to this card. It adds to the natural feel. I'm going to accent the watercoloring with some mica flakes from Tim Holtz. So I brought in glossy accents, and I'm just tracing over the stems of the berry branches, and I'm going to use the glossy accents as the adhesive for those mica flakes. So anywhere where I traced over those stems, the mica flakes are going to catch, and that's going to create a nice sparkle. It's perfect for that frosty, wintry feel. For a greeting, I brought in this Simon Says Stamp Christmas Blessings stamp set, which also has the coordinating dies. If you don't have the dies, you can just cut this sentiment down into a simple circle or a rectangle, or even fussy cut it. Now I will use the dies to cut this greeting out, which I stamped and embossed in silver embossing powder. So I used embossing ink and then silver embossing powder to set that. I like to heat the backside of my paper before bringing it to the front. That really helps minimize the warping, and it also really aids in the embossing factor. The embossing powder has a tendency to set quicker, so then you don't have to burn your paper or burn the embossing powder either. I used the coordinating dies like I had mentioned to cut this out, and then I just popped this up right on top of my card for a beautiful sentiment amongst these winter berries. This card is done. I love how quick and simple it was to put together, and the messy look of the watercoloring creates such a beautiful artistic feel to this card. I hope you were inspired by this idea. I hope you'll give it a try. It's a fun way to experiment with watercolors and play around using an embossing folder as basically your guide for how you're going to apply the color and basically just trace the areas. It makes it a quick and simple process, and you still get a stunning watercolored design to use for cards, tags, and more. If you're interested in any of the products that I used today or the Holiday Sparkle release from Simon Says Stamp, be sure to check out the links below in the video description or also on my blog. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back soon with more to share with you all, but until then, I hope you have a fabulous day. Bye!